Welcome in to the Rock Talk Studio, where I find you that next great rock and roll book or doc to check out. This is the podcast that reviews, previews, and most importantly, recommends to you the good stuff. I'm your host, Big Rick. Let's plug in and see what I got for you this week. What's left to tell about Ozzy Osbourne? I mean, really. There's no other rock star who has been played out so much in public than Ozzy. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say Ozzy Osbourne is the most popular, recognized rock star of today. Yeah, I know Paul McCartney is still alive, and Mick Jagger and Dylan and Neil Young, and they're out there, no doubt about it. But my wife cried when Ozzy died, and she probably only knows 3 or 4 Ozzy songs. Sorry, babe, love you. But my point is, Ozzy is known in the public like no other rock star of today. And I think a lot of that has to do with the Osbourne show. That show just catapulted him into this other layer of stardom. And then he did the show with his son, which is really sweet. We're watching it the other night. And he is so well known that people who don't really know him well, like my wife, were really upset when he passed because they got to know him through that show. And no other rock star has been exposed like that. I mean, Paul McCartney, of course, people know him and there's been so much product out around him, but still not like Ozzy. I mean, I know when Paul McCartney dies, I'll be crying. And when Dylan dies and all the other ones, I'll be crying, sure. But the general public, the people who don't know rock and roll history, the people who aren't big fans, aren't going to care as much as when Ozzy passed. And I think some of that had to do with the way Ozzy went too after that big concert. But as much as we all know about Ozzy, there is a gap in the last 6 years. For the last 6 years, he's kind of been out of the public's eye. He has come out a few times on social media and talked about his illness, and he has come out and unfortunately had to postpone tours. And you know that guy is not healthy and that he's trying to get back on the road and he hasn't been able to do it. So these last 6 years have been kind of this mystery spot about Ozzy Osbourne. What has been going on with Ozzy? Well, this new book that he just put out, his second memoir called Last Rites, fills in the gap of these final years of Ozzy's life. And if you didn't love Ozzy before, you're definitely going to love him. And if you loved him, you're going to love him even more because this book is very touching and it exposes him even more because he's been going through so much in these last 6 years, especially physically. There is a ton of detail about what he has been going through. So you finally get to understand why he wasn't in the public, why he hasn't been able to perform. I mean, there was a time he said he was on 64 different medications in 1 week. I mean, he had a couple injuries, he had a couple of surgeries, and he really, and this is another endearing thing about him, he really wanted to play again. And he really tried very, very hard to get back on stage, and you feel for him. And Ozzy writes this book with Chris Ayers, who helped him write the first memoir, but it's still in Ozzy language. It's still Ozzy-isms. There's still really great humor in this book, a lot of funny parts. And I found myself when I was reading the book, kind of reading it in Ozzy's voice. That's another thing about this guy. Everybody knows how he talks. Everybody knows his mannerisms and the way he is, and it just comes across really well in this book. So I found myself kind of reading in Ozzy's language. But getting back to the health issues, you can't help but really be on his side and understand what he was going through now that you really know the detail of the physical ailments and the treatments and the surgeries and all the physical therapy and everything he was doing to perform again. There really is no rock star I can remember that actually got a chance to say goodbye in this fashion with the last concert, the Back to the Beginning concert that he did, but also in book form. I read an interview recently where Jack said he was writing this book almost right up to the day he died. And a lot of this is his goodbye to a lot of people, especially to Sharon, his wife. And a lot of it is a thank you. And a lot of it is, I love you and I'm sorry. There is apologies to Jake E. Lee. There's apologies to Bill Ward, people that he's worked with that he just, things happen in life and relationships get busted up, and this was his chance to say, hey, I feel sorry about the way it went down. I wish it didn't go down that way. I love you, and thank you for everything that you contributed to my life. Again, Ozzy's going to get you in this book. He got me a couple of times, so bring the tissues to this one. It's just Ozzy, being very heartfelt and thoughtful and very appreciative in his own unique, innocent way. Ozzy struggled with his health issues. I mean, deep, really devastating health issues at the end of his life that really seemed to humble him. I mean, it would humble anyone. It definitely had him reflecting on how much longer he was going to live. And he wanted to make it right with a lot of people. I think that's just who Ozzy was. He knew he was a wild man. He knew he was out of control for a long period of his life, doing so much drugs that sometimes he doesn't even remember. He kind of recalls a situation and says, well, I think that's how it went. But he admits that the drugs and alcohol got in the way of his life in a lot of areas. But in a lot of ways, he wouldn't trade it either. He knows how blessed he is and what a life that he's lived. And it really is cool to read about these last moments of Ozzy's life because the way he handled himself and the way he was able to kind of go out on its own terms. I think that's what makes that Back to the Beginning concert one of the most legendary performances in the history of rock and roll, without a doubt. It was a quick read. I blasted through it in a couple days and I loved it. I don't see how anyone wouldn't really enjoy this book from one of rock and roll's greatest souls. Ozzy Osbourne's Last Rites. Check this one out. I asked when we first started this conversation about Ozzy, what else is there to tell? Well, I thought The Last Rites was it. But actually, there's something more that I wish we had. More Ozzy next. Before I give you a little more on Ozzy, I want to give you a little more on rock and roll books and documentaries because I'm over the 90 episode point here with the show. It's been going on for 3 years. So you can go back into the archives and dig into all the shows. There's 90 plus shows back there and they're free and they're going to give you a really great insight into some really cool rock and roll books and documentaries almost at that historic 100 mark. They say in podcasting that most people don't make it to the 100th episode. Well, we are definitely going to make it at the Rock Talk studio to the 100th episode. That will be coming up probably by the end of the year. So it's a really cool milestone on my part. And that's a really cool milestone for me to achieve because of you. You've listened, you've supported me, you've encouraged me, you've been along for this ride. I love doing this. I love talking about rock and roll history, these books and these docs. And I love communicating with everybody out there about it too. So check those archives out if you want more. They're free. They're back there. Go get them. All right, I'm going to push it here a little bit, but definitely not out of disrespect to Ozzy. I've got a huge amount of respect for him. I'm sure you could hear that when I was talking about the book, but I would love to have had this memoir be an audiobook. How cool would that be to have him narrate this book, this last book? And I'm really glad that we got the second memoir from him. I mean, I'm grateful. He was putting this thing together literally in his final days. And I'm really grateful that we got this, but it would be cool to get Ozzy's audiobook. I know a lot of you listens to audiobooks. I know the Geddy Lee book, the audiobook was really cool. The Bono book, the audiobook was really cool. But definitely one other thing we've got to get, and this is Sharon, and I'm sure she's working on it, is that final Back to the Beginning concert in its entirety. That has to come out. There was a doc that just came out recently along with the book. I haven't had a chance to see that yet. So that has some mention of Back to the Beginning and some things in there, but we need the full concert from Back to the Beginning. And I guess what I'm saying is there's never enough Ozzy Osbourne. Ozzy, we love you and just can't get enough. All right, next week, I've seen it. Did you see it? Did you go to the theaters? Did you see it? It's the biggest rock and roll movie released this year. I'll let you know all about it in next week's show. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Love talking rock and roll with you. You know that I do. You know I love talking about Ozzy. I hope you go out and get this new book, Last Rites. It is so, so good. All right, let's tear it down, pack it up, and head on down the road. I'll catch you next time in the Rock Talk studio.